Hey, welcome back guys. So I gave you my list of recommendations which MG kits would be best for a beginner. Now in this video I want to talk about which MGs I would recommend avoiding as a beginner to the line. So again, I just wanted to start off this video with a preface by saying that, if there's one of the kits that I'm going to talk about here today as one that I would avoid as a beginner, but it's one that you particularly like, then, you don't have to listen to me. All of these kits that I'm going to mention are fine. They're just kind of the worst of the master grade line, I guess, which overall is a line that's overwhelmingly good. And if you've been watching my channel for a long time, you know that I don't necessarily believe in any bad kits. If there's some kits that aren't as good as others, that doesn't necessarily mean they're totally worthless. It just means that, if it's a design you like, you just have to be prepared to do a little bit more work on some of these kits. So we're gonna start off here by basically just eliminating like the first 20 of the MG line. So if it's within like the first 20 kits out from the MG line, I just would not really recommend them because most of those kits now have a version 2.0. So you got like the original Zaku 2, Char Zaku 2, the original RX-782 Gundam, the Zeta Gundam, the Gelgoogs, the Gundam Mark II. Unfortunately, no 2.0 kits yet for the GPO1 and GPO2, so those would be nice to hopefully get 2.0 kits of, but any of those like early MGs are just not going to be as nice as anything later on, and they all have 2.0 versions, which are obviously going to be much better. Then you get up to the Dom, which is actually still pretty good. It actually holds up quite well. Then the one after that is the Alex, which I would also not recommend. Alex 1.0, pretty notoriously bad, as one of the worst master grades out there as well too. That one as well now thankfully has a 2.0, so would just not recommend getting the 1.0 if you can avoid it. Now moving on a little bit, but not too much later, we also have the GOOF Custom. It is a really cool design, a design that I personally really love, just unfortunately the kit is not that great. And while it's not that bad, it's not really like the worst MG out there, the HDUC kit is so good in comparison. I think if you're a fan of the GOOF Custom, then I would highly recommend just getting the HDUC kit. Avoid the master grade unless you really super want a 100 scale version of that. I don't necessarily foresee Bandai making a 2.0 version of that anytime soon. It would be awesome because they have a 2.0 GOOF, so it would be really cool if they would make a 2.0 GOOF Custom. But unfortunately for the time being, that's just kind of all we have to work with. So yeah, it's very weak and the hands are awful, and so it's just kind of a little bit of a mess. Moving on to, a lot of people would throw a lot of Verka kits on this list, and I'm going to have a couple, but not really as many as you guys might think. One I definitely am going to include though is the V2 Verka, and you can kind of summarize this sort of as like all of the Victory Verka kits. I've built the V- and the V2 twice now, and I just don't really enjoy them. They're overly complicated because of the transformation feature, which is really great that you are able to transform it if you want to, but the transformation is kind of a hassle to do. It's not really fun to do at all. And personally, I would have liked this kit so much better if they would have just taken the transformation gimmick out of it and just made it as a good, solid master grade kit, because I really like the designs, especially the V- as well as like the Assault Buster version of the V2. It's super cool designs, but just the kits are just not really that fun to build, I find, just because they're a little bit overly complicated. And it's just kind of by necessity. I don't think that it was like a bad choice for them to make it that way. I think just if they were going to make the kits fully transformable, which they kind of have to, there's not really any way around that. Also just because of the size of them, the Victory Gundams are quite small compared to other Gundams. So even though it is 1/100 scale, it's almost closer to 1/44 scale of kind of like what we would normally find there. So it's trying to pack a lot into a small package, and it just kind of is a bit of a mess. Next up would be the Master Grade Full Armor Double Zeta, or the original Fazz. Basically, we still have not gotten a new version of the Full Armor Double Zeta kit, but we have gotten the Double Zeta kits, and we have gotten the Fazz kind of out separately as new Verka kits, which are both fantastic. So here's an example of Verka kits that are very good. So a lot of people kind of generalize sometimes that Verka kits are kind of on a little bit more kind of difficult or not as fun spectrum, and it's just kind of hit or miss between them, honestly. The Fazz, the Double Zeta Gundam are both really great Verka kits. So again, it's basically the case of where I would not recommend the originals because we have like sort of 2.0s, but they're not labeled as 2.0 kits. We have the Verka versions of them, which basically act as 2.0s, and they're much, much better than the originals. The Fazz actually was one of the very first master grades that I ever built way, way a long time ago, and I just remember, I don't really remember it that much, but the one thing that I do remember was that I was just not happy with the kit even at that time. So, alright then, keeping with the Gundam Sentinel a little bit, I'm gonna say one that's a little bit controversial, and I almost kind of don't really want to include on this list personally, but the Master Grade Deep Striker, It's a awesome kit. I love the Deep Striker, but wouldn't necessarily recommend it for beginners just because I think it's a really expensive kit for one, and it doesn't really do anything. And so I would say if you're a fan of the Deep Striker design, then, you know, and you don't mind the price tag, then get it, you'll love it. But for beginners, again, for people who are kind of new to Gunpla or new to trying out Master Grade kits, it's kind of I wouldn't really expect to recommend them something so expensive, and that doesn't really do a whole lot. I think that when the Master Grade Deep Striker came out, it kind of got a little bit too much hate for the fact that it doesn't do much. I was under the impression that, I was never expecting it to do much. It's just the Deep Striker. It kind of just is what it is, so you wouldn't really expect it to do all these sorts of crazy poses and everything. So in my opinion, it wasn't anything to be disappointed about with the design. I love the kit, I love the design. I think Bandai did an awesome job with that, just for what it is, the Master Grade Deep Striker. But I would not recommend it for a beginner. No, not necessarily. Last thing here is going to be the Master Grade Unicorn Gundam Verka or the Full Armor Unicorn Gundam. And the reason I'm including these is not because it's the Master Grade Unicorn Gundam, because in general I think the Unicorn Gundam is fine, and later like the OVA versions and the Banshee and stuff where they made some changes, but I would just specifically not recommend the original Verka just because they did improve on the design a little bit, not that much, but they did make some small improvements with the later versions. So I just would not recommend the original Verka because that was the one that they made before it had a couple of improvements made to the design, especially like in the knee joints. But still, yes, the Unicorn Master Grade in general is maybe not that great for some people just because it's a bit of a brick. And again, just because of the transformation features and because of the weight of the kit and everything, it's a very kind of heavy kit, so it's a little bit difficult kit to pose. That said, I still maintain that I think it's a great looking kit, but for beginners, you might end up being a little bit disappointed if you especially if you've seen Gundam Unicorn and you've seen how awesome the Unicorn is in the anime, and then building the MG kit. I can see where someone could be a little bit disappointed, but the original Verka, aside from the fact that it comes with water slides, which is nice, is probably like the worst version of that. And then the Full Armor Unicorn is great, but that's even more of a brick because you really can't do anything with that, because you're adding all this stuff onto it, and it's just kind of all it can really do is just stand there without modifying the joints or anything like that. So it's very similar to the Deep Striker, basically. If you like the design and you're fine with just building it up and just having it stand there and not do anything, then you'll love it. If you want to actually do anything, then you're not really going to have that much fun with a kit like that. So that's my list, guys. Did I leave anything off, or do any of these picks seem unjustified to you? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Is there any kits that you think should have been on this list as well too? And again, guys, hope this list was helpful. If you're in the market for buying some Master Grade kits or anything, of course, you can check them out at USA Gundam Store. So thank you to USA Gundam Store, as always, for making these videos possible. The link to the site and the coupon code for you guys to use will be down there in the video description. And if you guys have any recommendations for more future lists, make sure to let me know in the comments down below. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Hope you're all having a great day. I'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.